Hi, 8th grade. This is lesson 3 of module 10, order real numbers. And the I can statement says, I can accurately order a list of real numbers containing fractions, decimals, and irrational numbers. So there's no spark your learning or build understanding in this, so we'll get started with the step it out. All real numbers correspond to a position on the number line. Real numbers include rational and irrational numbers. And if you remember, rational numbers include integers, whole numbers, natural numbers, and then the irrational numbers are numbers that cannot be written as a terminating or repeating ratio of two integers. So let's look at number 1, estimate the square root of 50 to the nearest tenth. So in numbers 1 and 2, I want you to pause here and go through and try to do these on your own from what you know from the previous lessons, and then we'll look at these two together. Okay, so hopefully you did these and wrote these out, and you can just check them as you go along. So number 1 says estimate the square root of 50 to the nearest tenth. So if we look at the square root of 50, we know that it's between some numbers that when you square those numbers, you'll get close to 50. One it will be less than 50, one will be greater. So hopefully you came up with 49, which is 7 times 7. And then 8 times 8 would be 64. And 50 is between 49 and 64. And so what are the square roots of those? The square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 64 is 8. So we know that the square root of 50 is somewhere between 7 and 8. The whole number that most closely estimates the square root of 50 is 7, because 49 is much closer to 50 than 50 is to 64. So then D, refine your estimate of the square root of 50, circle the true statement, then underline the value closer to 50. So this will take some calculation on your part, these different ones. So you'll just have to go through and kind of multiply. Well, we know this is going to be 49, so you would want to multiply 7.1 times 7.1, and so you'll get, then you'll check this one and see which are closer to 50 as you go through, and then you'll hopefully end up with this one as your choice. So that's that first one. Number 2, estimate the cube root of 100 to the nearest hundredth. And so again, you're going to try to find a number where you cube it, you get one number that's less than 100 and one that's greater than 100. So when we look at those, we can say, okay, I know that 4 times 4 times 4 gives me 64. And then I know that 5 times 5 times 5 gives me 125. And if I look at what are the cube roots, the cube root of 64 is 4. The cube root of 125 is 5. Circle the pair of cubes that the cube root of 100 lies between. And so this would be, when you multiply those out again, use your calculator, multiply 4.6 times 4.6 times 4.6, and 4.7 times 4.7 times 4.7, and you'll have to do this one. So you'll probably multiply at least a few of them to see where that square root of 100 or cube root of 100 lies. D, within your interval, test cubes of values expressed in hundredths. Which cube is closest to 100? Approximately equal to is represented by this symbol here, the little wavy equal sign. And so if we look at that, 4.64 cubed is closest to 100, so the cube root of 100 is 4.64. So you can do the turn and talk if you'd like, and we'll go on to the next page. So let's look at number 3. For number 3, A through D, I'm going to just do the first couple with you, and then you can finish on your own because you already have an idea of what you're doing here. So let's look at number 3. You can use estimates of square roots to help you estimate and compare numerical expressions involving square roots. A, compare the values below, write less than or greater than to complete each statement. So if you look at this first one, we know we can compare 2 and 6, and we know that 2 is less than 6. So if we add the square root of 3 to each one of those, we know that the square root of 3 plus 2 is going to be less than the square root of 3 plus 6. So if we look at -1 and -3, we know that -1 is greater than -3. So then we know that if we have the square root of 7 minus 1, that will be also greater than the square root of 7 minus 3. So you can finish those on your own. B, complete the statement with consecutive integers. 8 is between the perfect squares of 4 and 9, 2 times 2 and 3 times 3. So the value of the square root of 8 is between the integers 2 and 3. Use this information to complete the inequality with integer values. So you should be able to do that one on your own, that last part of B. Compare the values below. For C, write less than or greater than to complete each statement. So I think you can do that one on your own. Think about what you know about the square root of 7 and the square root of 3. And then if you multiply those two values by the number 2 each time, what will you get? Then it says complete the statement with consecutive integers, and you can do the rest of C on your own. D, complete the inequalities using consecutive integers. The square root of 13 minus 1, they're asking what is less than that and what is greater than that. So you're going to think about finding where does the square root of 13 fall. And so I think you can do D on your own as well. So there's another page I want to look at quickly, and then we'll be done. So let's look at number 4. Identify the integers between which each number is located. So now what they're doing is they're giving you some numbers that are not whole numbers, they're ratios, or pi is actually an irrational number. So they're saying find which each one. So you have to think first about what does this equal, or what's it close to. Well, you know that 3/2 is the same as 1 1/2. So you're going to try to say, well, where is 1 1/2? What is that between, if you were to think about it on a number line? So 1 1/2 is between 1 and 2. So with the rest of them, I'll let you do those on your own. Think about what the number is and where it might fall between which two integers. And then it says use the comparisons to plot and label the points on the number line. So once you get those between which and which, you'll plot 3/2, you'll plot pi, you'll plot the square root of 5, and you'll plot 0.3 repeating. B, identify the consecutive integers between identify the consecutive integers between which each number is located. So on this one, you have to, again, it's pretty much the same, but these are all, so this is the opposite or negative of the square root of 12. So it's not the square root of -12. You would find the square root of 12 first, and then it would be the opposite of that. And you can see they're going to have you use the comparisons to plot and label the points on the number line. And so if you look, all these are negative, and so that's why they have all negative numbers on this number line. So again, it's similar to this one up here, where you're finding what those values are, and you're just going to place two integers, what's less than, what's greater than, and then you'll plot those on the number line. So that is the end of lesson 3 for module 10, and so I will see you in the next module and lesson.